Hello students, good morning. So, uh, Asta, can you people hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today I shall be starting with a topic on plant tissue culture. And there are good number of lectures on this aspect. So I shall be taking a very basic aspect of plant tissue culture with certain terminology and all those. Okay. So this topic is on morphogenesis. What is a morphogenesis? Uh, if you people understand, in case of plants, we know that every plant have certain shape and structure. We can recognize a plant from far away place that this plant is probably this particular tree. Okay, if it is a banyan tree, you can recognize if it's a mango tree, but certainly not by looking at the leaves and other things, finer aspects of that. Overall shape of the plant will tell you that this is this plant. This is what about the morphogenesis? Morphogenesis is that the plant has a particular morphology, and attaining that morphology is morphogenesis. So that is in general outside, but what is there about the morphogenesis in or tissue culture? In tissue culture, the morphogenesis is how these different structures are produced in tissue culture. You are well aware that in tissue culture you can have shoot, root, embryo and everything. As far as the shoots are concerned, the shoots can be, when we culture an explant, if it has a preformed shoot primordia, that is what you call it as apical meristematic tissue. It can grow and shoot can grow. That is not considered as morphogenesis. No. Contrarily, if you have a leaf doesn't carry any apical meristem, neither root nor shoot. Any leaf doesn't carry apical meristem. You will just question me that there is a plant called bryophyllum or patharchak. There are apical buds on the leaf. But dear student, this is a structure that looks like a leaf but is not technically a leaf. So that is a stem technically, which is modified into leaf. So actual by definition, the leaf does not have apical shoot meristem. It should not bear. And anything that bears the shoot buds, apical meristem, shoot bud, quiescent or maybe growing, is called stem. That's why probably the potato tuber, what we call it as a modified stem. So in that respect, so when we develop the shoots from these explant which doesn't contain shoot buds, that is, it can be leaf, it can be petal, it can be sepal, or it can be internode, or even the root segment. When we get shoot from them, this is a part of morphogenesis, in vitro morphogenesis. So we can have like that shoots, or we can have roots. Rooting is a very common phenomena. We put the cuttings, micro shoots in medium, cutting in the field, it roots. This is a generation of new roots. Earlier does not exist any roots. So that is what is called rooting. It's an other aspect of morphogenesis. So first was shoot organogenesis. We call it as calogenesis. And other is rooting. We call it as rhizogenesis. Another very important aspect of in vitro morphogenesis is formation of embryos from the somatic cells, tissue. Normally, you all people know that embryos are produced by the virtue of fusion of male from the zygote, which is produced by the virtue of fusion of male and female gametes. So what is embryogenesis? It is produced by the structure that is in turn produced by the fusion of gametophytic generation, cells of gamete. That means the gametophytic generation is involved. So before forming embryo, the somatic cell undergo meiosis, form gametes. These gametes then fuse to form zygote, and zygote when start dividing, it is called embryo by definition. So in normal embryogenesis, it involves the process of sexual reproduction. But in somatic embryogenesis, no such gametophytic generation is involved. That is why it is called somatic embryogenesis. Embryos are directly produced from the somatic cells. These embryos are also called in plant tissue culture as embryoids. The creation and growth of organized structure in vitro, new organized structures, that is calogenesis, rhizogenesis, or somatic embryogenesis, is referred to as morphogenesis. So these are all organized growth. So what is unorganized growth? In plant tissue culture, there are certain structures which are growing that are not organized. The most important of that is callus. Callus is an unorganized mass of cells. Here I would like to emphasize, if I had asked you people what is a callus, you might have responded to me, it is a undifferentiated mass of cells. But technically, it is not an undifferentiated mass of cells. It is an unorganized mass of cells, where cells of different types, differentiated cells, are assembled to form that mass in an unorganized manner. So when the cells of different differentiation level are present in the callus, we can't call it as unorganized, undifferentiated mass of cells. It's an unorganized mass of cells. So how it is produced? Some cells from the organized tissues start dividing by dedifferentiation. The callus could have heterogeneous population of cells which may contain variant cells. Now, there are two different things. I have used two terms, differentiation and dedifferentiation. So what is a differentiation first? So when the zygote is there, it's a generalized cell. In a multicellular organism, when the zygote start dividing, it may produce similar type of cells in plants. So you get the globular embryo. From globular embryo, we start getting differentiation. First of all, the outermost cell performs the function of a cellular covering and get differentiated or specialized to perform the function of epidermis. Like that, the different cells, they then differentiate and form the multicellular organisms. So in a multicellular organisms, cell attain the particular capacity to perform a particular function depending upon its location. And that is what the differentiation is. And then what is dedifferentiation? When the differentiated cells, they revert back to the normalized cell and start functioning and behaving like a normal cell, we call it as dedifferentiated cell. Let me put it this way, in another very simple way. You people are well aware of our any office otherwise, but I give the example of defense forces. Suppose a soldier is given a duty that you are performing this function. So let's say he's a cook. So he's doing the cooking job. He's specialized in cooking job. So he's always doing cooking job. That's it. So that means he's differentiated now as a cook. If we want the same soldier to perform some other duty, first we have to say him, you stop working as a cook. And then bring him like a normal soldier. And then ask him to attain the capacity to perform the other function. Now let us look this whole loop. When a normal soldier attain the capacity as a cook, it is called differentiation. Now from differentiated soldier, when it again get back the capacity of a normal soldier, it is called de-differentiation. And when this de-differentiated is asked, a person is asked to perform some other function, it is called re-differentiation. So same thing happens in tissue culture in vitro with the cells. The cells can differentiate, they can de-differentiate and can re-differentiate. The play of all that is the morphogenesis. Now callus is a very important. Now callus can have the heterogeneous population of cell. What does this mean? If you look at the callus, now look at this particular say this callus. Look at this callus. These are very shiny, organized, some organized structure. Maybe it is called a nodular callus. This is a nodular callus. This is also a nodular callus. This is a nodular morphogenetic callus. This is a nodular non-morphogenetic callus. This is a callus of a very important medicinal plant, Bacopa monnieri. It is known with the name of Brahmi, and this is a callus of a very prized variety of rose used to produce the essential oil, rose oil. So it's those callus. So this is a morphogenetic. This callus does not produce any morphogenetic structure. Shoot we nahi banata, neither shoot nor root nor embryo, nothing. But this callus is differentiating embryos. These embryos are very early embryos. These are, and these are green cells, these are white cells. So different kinds of cells are there. And this callus can also have cells of different ploidy level. Genetically, the cells can also be different. So that's why callus is a heterogeneous assemblage of cells. Okay. So callus could be of many types. We will discuss in the next slide. The other unorganized structures that we encounter or we get or we produce in the tissue culture is protoplast. Protoplast is the plant cell without cell wall. In medium, in liquid medium, they are rounded in structure, although the cell will have the different types of shapes. Therefore, these are also called spherules. You can see here, these are the spherules, spherical structures. These are isolated nowadays by the enzymatic degradation of cell wall. So we can remove the cell wall enzymatically and isolate the protoplast. Regarding the other aspect of protoplast isolation and culture, I will discuss with you later on in the presentation related to the protoplast. So earlier the protoplast in the beginning, that is during 1880s, it was isolated by mechanical ways. At that time, nothing was known about the cell wall chemical structure. Enzymes were not available and there was no other way. But nowadays, the protoplasts are isolated enzymatically. They are used for somatic hybridization and genetic manipulations. Yes? Anyone wants to ask anything? So now coming to the calli or calluses. Callus cultures may be compact. So callus can be a compact callus, hard callus, friable. Compact callus is a hard callus. That's very difficult to even cut or break. Friable callus, contrary, is very soft callus. When we try to handle the callus, cells get separated apart. It's just like a handling a handful of sand and trying to retain that, then also it flows out of your hand. Friable callus, it's like that. Then nodular callus I have shown you. in the previous slide. And then the callus could be morphogenetic or non-morphogenetic. Morphogenetic means callus that is differentiated easily morphogenetic structures, morphogens such as shoot, root, embryo, producing those. And there are sometimes the callus becomes non-morphogenetic. Whatsoever efforts we may do, it does not differentiate or produce any such organized structures. So I've shown you both type of calli in the previous slide. Then what's a compact callus? It is a hard callus with densely packed and arranged cells. And they are also very strictly bound to each other and very difficult to break or cut. A hard callus, like just the hardwood. Then fribble callus is a group of loosely associated cells, and the callus is soft and cells separate apart easily. Then nodular callus. Nodular callus is a callus with node-like structures, which I was showing you in the previous slide, which may be early stages of other morphoforms. Morphoforms means shoot bud, early stage of shoot bud, embryo, or it can be root also, which is relatively rare, but mostly in the callus, if it doesn't have shoot, it has embryo and shoot morphoforms, early stages of that. A non-morphogenetic callus can be compact fribble. This type of callus does not develop any morphoform easily. So we don't get any morphoform from this callus very easily. The callus could also be categorized based on the color. Yes, this is another way. Callus could be white, cream color, pink, green, pale green, yellow, any type, range of colors, depending upon the medium, type, and plant species. If the plant is known to produce carotenoid, and if the callus cells are producing carotenoids, it can be red in color, green, dark yellow to red in color. So like that. The callus can also be differentiated based on the color. Then another very peculiar aspect of callus is generally how the callus develops. Why the callus develops? The question is that. The callus develops when we have an explant grown on the medium which is containing higher amounts of both auxins and cytokinins. There is an uncontrolled cell division result in unorganized mass of cell. We call that as callus. So to sustain the growth of callus, we need to retain the auxin and cytokinin in the medium. Or you can say auxin and cytokinins are always required for the growth of the callus. This is a very typical process. Shoot growth, or if your plantlet rooted shoot is growing in the culture, it may be growing in the absence of any plant growth regulator. Because in a complete plant, apical bud is known to produce auxins, which are transported in a polar transport manner to the growing root, which produces cytokinin, which is in back returned to the apical bud for growth. So both are sustaining each other for the both plant growth regulators, which are necessary for plant growth and morphology, retaining the morphology. Now in the callus, neither shoot bud is there nor root bud is there. That means neither the place where auxin are synthesized nor the place where cytokinins are synthesized. And if the callus cannot synthesize all that, then it requires auxin and cytokinin in the medium to sustain its growth. The question is, what is habituation or habituated callus? Habituated callus is called when it can grow in the absence of auxin and cytokinin. Maybe the cells has accumulated lot of cytokinin and auxin in them as a reserve, or some cells has attained the capacity still unorganized as a unorganized cells to produce auxins, and other cells has retained the capacity to produce cytokinin, and they are compensating or fulfilling the need of each other. But this type of callus is generally encountered in the cultures which are very old culture, 3 or 4 year callus, old callus cultures. We can encounter habituated callus. Such callus or calli are called habituated callus or calli. Now, suspension culture. What is a suspension culture? A population of cells or cell clumps in the liquid medium initiated from the frivole or any type of callus through the series of filtration or getting a particular type of suspension of cells, of single cells, and this can be used to select the cell colonies with the particular characteristics or mutant cell colony selection. You can see this is a suspension culture, cell suspension culture. In the liquid medium, these cells are growing, these are cell clumps, and then it is full of cell suspension. So cell suspension are generally used for somatic embryogenesis or production of secondary metabolites, in vitro production of secondary metabolites. Then we have anther culture. Anther, you know, all the male organ in the plant producing pollen in it. So anther contain pollen or microspores, which can be used for haploid breeding or other purpose. Anther can form haploid callus. Now, if the microspores in the anther, which are haploid, produce callus, that callus could be haploid, and if they produce embryo, that will be haploid. That is what is called androgenesis. And here you will see these are again the anthers of rose, that essential oil bearing rose. These are the anthers cultures, and one of the anthers taken out, you can see from inside of the anther, this callus is coming out. When this callus was examined for its cytological status, it turned out to be haploid. That is, it containing half the number of chromosomes. And then this callus can be grown to differentiate the various structures, which will also be haploid. So please mute yourself. If you want to ask something, then it's okay, welcome. Then culture of organized structures. The meristematic cultures, that is shoot apical meristem culture for virus indexing and virus elimination used in conjunction with the heat treatment. So we can have the different types of morphogenetic culture. These are the shoot cultures, lot of shoot cultures, shoot tip cultures. This is a plant which you are well aware of. It's aloe vera. These are the cultures of aloe vera. Okay, a shoot culture. Then this is a node culture. This is a node, and the shoots are growing from the node. This is a node culture. This is used for micro propagation. The beginning of the cultures are established from the nodes, and we call it as micro propagation. Then shoot tip culture I have shown you. These are also used for propagation purpose. And then this is, what is this? What are these? This is a potato culture, and you can see small potato-like structures. Many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 17 of them are visible in a flask of 100 ml, containing just 20 ml of medium. So this is in vitro production of microtubers of potato, which are used as a very highly prized seed of potato, the method of propagation. Then this is a shoot culture. This is again Bacopa brahmi, and this is a shoot culture of shoot multiplication of apple rootstock. And these are the somatic embryos, black somatic embryos. You can see these the white structures with the roundish at the top. These are the apical shoot apical, sorry, these are the somatic embryos. These are the somatic embryos. Now, embryo culture can also be done from developing and developed seeds. when these are cultured, it is used for this. We can just isolate the embryo after hybridization from a wide cross, distance cross, non-compatible cross, because these embryos, they get aborted when the mother plant recognizes this is not the tissue which belongs to its genetic lineage. So if we can track those crosses and excise or dissect out the embryo before abortion, we can grow those embryos in the culture and we can produce plants from them. This is called embryo culture. And we can also grow isolated roots. Generally, the normal roots does not grow as roots in the absence of plant growth regulators. If we want to grow as a roots, we have to supply heavy plant growth regulators. And moreover, in that condition also, it has a tendency to regenerate shoots. But there are a special type of shoot which are produced as a result of genetic transformation of tissue with agrobacterium rhizogenes. It's a gram-negative plant pathogenic bacteria known to induce roots, and these are the roots, hairy roots. These roots are called hairy roots. These roots are used very heavily for the production of secondary metabolites. We can produce secondary metabolites. So this is somatic embryogenesis. You can see the slide. This is somatic embryogenesis in potato. These are the explants, leaf explant, nodal explants, then producing little bit of callus, and then you can see beautiful embryos. This is the different stages of embryos. Embryos are germinating to produce the plant. This is the somatic embryogenesis in Gladiolus. The callus. This is all crop of embryos. This is embryos closer view. And then this is the histological studies of Gladiolus somatic embryos. And this is the histological studies of potato somatic embryogenesis. And these are the SEM pictures, scanning electron micrographs of somatic embryogenesis. Globular embryo and torpedo embryo. This is globular embryo. This is heart-shaped embryo. This is germinating embryo, like that. Because Gladiolus is a monocot. So this embryo is a monocot. This is shoot bud. This is scutellum. This is a radicle. So this is a slide which I will take up with you during my normal lecture on micropropagation. I'll explain there. Then factors affecting. This genotype will have a pronounced effect on the process of morphogenesis. Media composition I have been discussing with you during the course, that plant growth regulator and salts are very important. Then physical condition, temperature, light, and relative humidity also affect the process of morphogenesis. These things I will discuss with you during micropropagation also. Then the tissue specific response is very important. So we don't get similar response from all types of tissues. So depending upon the tissues, the response varies. So that is it. Thank you very much. Any questions, students? Yes, Astha?
No, sir.
Anyone having any question? You can also mail me if there's some query. Okay?
Okay, sir.
You people can mail me and I can just respond it either through Zoom or some other way mechanism we will find out and we can discuss. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, this lecture also I will upload on that Zoom lecture folder. I've recorded it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.